Follow me around for a bit. I'm going to tell you an ancient story that's close to my heart. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were 3 Jewish foreigners who gained the respect and admiration of King Nebuchadnezzar. They were quickly promoted to high-ranking officials in the Babylonian government and worked diligently, despite being in a foreign land, serving a foreign king, and speaking a foreign language. What set them apart the most, however, was their unyielding devotion to God. One day, King Nebuchadnezzar built a towering golden statue that was 90 feet high and 9 feet thick. He then ordered all the important leaders in the province, everybody who was anybody, to the dedication ceremony of the statue. They all came for the dedication and took their places before the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had erected. A herald then proclaimed in a loud voice, "Attention everyone, every race, color, and creed, listen. When you hear the band strike up, all the trumpets and trombones, the tubas and baritones, the drums and cymbals, fall to your knees and worship the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Anyone who does not kneel and worship shall be thrown immediately into a roaring furnace." The band started to play, and everyone in the crowd did as they were told. That was when a few Babylonian fortune-tellers approached the king and said, "Long live the king! You gave strict orders, your majesty, that when the band starts playing their instruments, every knee shall bow and worship the statue. Anyone who refuses to obey must be thrown into a blazing furnace. Yet there are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who are ignoring your orders, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you have set up." That enraged King Nebuchadnezzar, and he ordered the 3 men to be brought to him immediately. Once face to face, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or worship the gold statue I've set up? I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I've made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we still wouldn't serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." Nebuchadnezzar was so furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that his face became distorted with rage. He commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. Then he ordered some of the strongest men in his army to bind the 3 men and throw them into the blazing furnace. And because the king, in his anger, had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames. But suddenly, Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, "Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace?" "Yes, your majesty, we certainly did," they replied. "Look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, "I see 4 men, unbound, walking around the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god." Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their heads was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him." They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make this decree: if any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb, and their houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. There is no other God who could rescue like this. When I read this story through the lens of 2020, I'm once again reminded of the faithfulness of God. He is not a distant God who sits on his throne, disinterested in humanity. No, far from it. He is a personal God, a Father, Counselor, Healer, who shows up right alongside us, even in the roaring furnace. 2020 might have given us 1,000 reasons to despair, but in our desperation, I hope we could open our eyes and see that there's another person in the fire, standing right next to us. Not a flame could touch us. Not a hair on our heads will be singed. Not even the smell of smoke is allowed to linger in the name of Jesus. We might be hard-pressed on every side by troubles, but we shall not be crushed. We are confused, but not driven to despair. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. May you carry on fearlessly with the confidence of someone who was in the fire with Jesus and walked out unscathed. If you want more encouraging reflections such as these, check out my 30-week guided meditation videos at girlandtheword.com/theabundantlife. May these healing videos guide you towards the fulfilling and peaceful life you've always hoped for.